Good morning and happy Thursday. Welcome to the Riley King Show. It's Thursday, February 5th, 2026. I'm Riley King, and here's what's on today's program. A rise in flu-related death reported across New Hampshire. Executive Council rejects extension of emissions testing contract. State officials clash over ICE facility paperwork with calls for resignation. Ayotte to outline her priorities in the upcoming State of the State address. Sununu campaign denies any connection with Epstein after his name appeared in files. Shaheen responds to Kamen-Epstein documents and confirms her exit from the ARMI role. Lawmakers hear testimony on bill to end childhood vaccine requirements. Man convicted in attempted Trump assassination sentenced to life in prison. Court filings alleged visitors to a suspected Las Vegas home biolab became severely ill. Border Khazar Tom Homeman announces withdrawal of 700 federal agents from Minneapolis aimed ongoing tensions over the immigration enforcement. That's all coming up on today's program. Let's get started now. New Hampshire sees rise in flu deaths this season. 2 children are among the New Hampshire residents who have died from flu-related illnesses so far this season, as infections continue to spread widely across the state. The Department of Health and Human Services reports flu activity remains at the highest level, classified as widespread. Since the season began in October 2025, 35 flu-related deaths have been recorded. Health officials are urging residents to take precaution, including disinfecting high-touch surfaces, staying home when sick, and getting vaccinated. Alyssa Thompson of Breathe, New Hampshire, says the flu shot can help reduce illness severity and prevent dangerous complications like pneumonia. Child care centers across the state are increasing cleaning efforts, but leaders say keeping sick children home remains one of the best ways to stop the spread. For more information, visit New Hampshire DHHS website. Executive Council rejects emission testing contract extension. New Hampshire's Executive Council has voted down a request to extend the state's vehicle emission testing contract, despite warnings from Attorney General John Formella that the move is needed to comply with federal court order. Formella urged councilors to approve an extension with Gordon Darby, a Kentucky-based company that runs the program, citing a federal injunction requiring the state to meet the Clean Air Act standards. But councilors rejected the extension in a 3-2 vote, arguing the legislature repealed the inspection program last year and no state law currently supports it. Supporters of the extension said it would help avoid confusion and allow for a smoother transition. State officials clash over ICE facility paperwork, calls for resignation. New Hampshire Executive Councilor Dave Wheeler is calling for the resignation of Natural and Culture Resources Commissioner Sarah Stewart, accusing her of failing to notify Governor Kelly Ayotte that Homeland Security filed paperwork for a proposed ICE facility in Merrimack on January 9th. At Wednesday's executive council meeting, Wheeler said he had lost confidence in Stewart's leadership. Stewart denied any attempt to hide information, saying there was no intent to mislead or coordinate with the ACLU. The director of Division of Historical Resources said he also wasn't aware of the application until a right-to-know request was filed later in January. Governor Ayotte and council members criticized what they described as poor communication, and Ayotte has asked the Attorney General to review the situation. Ayotte to outline priorities in State of State address. Governor Kelly Ayotte is set to deliver her State of State address before the New Hampshire legislature on Thursday. An early look at speech obtained by WMUR News 9 shows Ayotte focusing on public safety, housing, and a proposed ban on student cell phone use in schools. She also takes aim at Massachusetts, saying businesses are leaving the Bay State for New Hampshire. Ayotte is expected to announce new steps toward developing next-generation nuclear power, directing the Department of Energy to explore future pathways. She will also push lawmakers to toughen DWI penalties, calling a double license suspension for drivers who refuse blood alcohol tests. Sununu campaign denies any link to Epstein after name appears in files. U.S. Senate campaign of former Senator John E. Sununu is pushing back after the name John Sununu appeared in newly released Jeffrey Epstein-related documents. In 2010 email, Epstein wrote that John Sununu has good stories, though it's unclear whether he meant Sununu or his father, former Governor John H. Sununu. Sununu's campaign says the reference is false, calling it a fabrication and stressing that neither man ever met or communicated with Epstein or Boris Nikolak, a former associate of Bill Gates. Sununu's campaign says the reference is false. Also, the campaign also said Sununu considers Epstein a despicable human being. Shaheen responds to Kamen-Epstein documents, confirms exit from ARMI role. Stephanie Shaheen is responding to newly released documents, the Department of Justice documents involving Dean Kamen's relationship with Jeffrey Epstein. Shaheen previously worked as Chief Strategy Officer for Kamen's Advanced Regulative Manufacturing Institution, or ARMI, in Manchester. Her campaign says she began stepping away as she launched her U.S. Senate bid and officially ended her consulting role last month. In a statement to News 9, Shaheen said First Robotics Board acted appropriately by hiring an outside law firm to investigate Kamen's action with Epstein. She also said ARM's board should review the issue independently. Shaheen called for all Epstein-related files to be released, saying the victims deserve accountability. Lawmakers hear testimony on a bill to end childhood vaccine requirements. Dozens of lawmakers gathered at the State House in Concord Wednesday to hear testimony on House Bill 1811, a proposal that would eliminate all childhood vaccination requirements in New Hampshire. Supporters argued the measure is about personal choice and medical freedom, while opponents warned it could weaken public health protections in schools and children in child care settings. State health officials testified the change could lower vaccination rates and increase the risk of outbreaks. State epidemiologist Dr. Benjamin Chan pointed to a growing national resurgence of measles, largely among unvaccinated populations. The bill remains under review as lawmakers consider the next steps forward. Man convicted in attempted Trump assassination sentenced to life. Ryan Roth, the man convicted of attempting to assassinate President Donald Trump at his Florida golf course in September of 2024, has been sentenced to life in prison. Court filings claim visitors to suspected Las Vegas home biolab became severely ill. New court filings related to the suspected biolab discovered inside a Las Vegas home alleged that multiple individuals who spent time at the property later became deathly ill. Tom Homeman pulls 700 agents from Minneapolis aimed calls for stronger local action. Tom Homeman has announced plans to withdraw 700 agents from Minneapolis, even as local officials insist that more needs to be done to address ongoing concerns. Thank you for tuning in to this edition of The Riley King Show. Enjoy the rest of your day. Bye now.